I remember my sales manager, okay, you got to knock on 100 doors, you're going to talk to 30, and your goal is to sell one. Why would I only want to sell one? Why can't I talk to 10 and sell 7? So that's the way my brain thinks. When the door slammed or they said not interested, what do most salespeople do door to door? They're like, oh, this area is bad, or the people are mean, or everybody's broke. They're always blaming the prospect. Reverse engineering. How did I use my tone that triggered that reaction? It's not like they plan like, hey, when a door-to-door guy comes around, I'm going to slam it in his face. That's a triggered reaction based off something I did. You go to school, you're in like college algebra, and your professor's making 70 grand, and you're like making more than he does in a month. It's hard to stay in school.
Do you think that's why you're so good at it?
I mean,
Jeremy Miner, the global sales strategist and founder of 7th Level and creator of NEPQ.
Renowned for turning average sellers into high 6- and 7-figure closers, training over 400,000 professionals in 40-plus countries.
And redefining how we sell by blending behavioral science with human psychology.
a lot of times salespeople lose a lot of sales because they try to assume the sale too early in the conversation before they have much trust or credibility. I reverse NEPQ, that's what it is, Neuro-Emotional Persuasion Questioning. So neuro stands for how does the brain work in conjunction with the nervous system? E stands for emotional, the emotional connection. P, persuasion, how do you get someone to persuade themselves? And Q stands for questioning, how do I reframe the questions I'm using? How do I interrupt patterns? All great people that have mastered anything are experts at recognizing patterns. Sales is the same thing, you recognize patterns. What's one of the first questions that you start thinking about anytime a salesperson first starts talking to you? How much?
Yeah, how much is it going to cost?
Cost? Why do we ask ourselves that question?
So Jeremy, you've helped tens of thousands of people master sales. I just want to go back. What was the first thing you ever sold?
I started selling door-to-door home security systems when I was in college in the great state of Utah. I went to UVU, and that's where I got my start. Broke, burned out college kid, and I played baseball, and I got married really, really quick. And I'm like, crap, I got to make money. And I went to this recruiting meeting, and 300 people were there. Everybody got hired because it was straight commission. I didn't know that at that time. And the rest is history. That's where it all started.
So I sold at Alder. You sold at Vivint, right?
I started with a company called Pinnacle Security.
Okay.
And then my last year and a half, me and a guy named Jared Young, this might be taboo, took about half of Pinnacle over to Apex, which is now Vivint.
Interesting.
I think I'm out of the non-compete by now, but we actually were the first ones to get a signing bonus. So that was not a thing when I was in that industry. This was like 2004, 2005, my last year, and we had to sign our lives away. We got this recruiting bonus, and we literally took half of Pinnacle to Apex. Pinnacle was way bigger at that time, and then Apex just went huge.
Yeah,
so
they've gotten really big. So
that's where it started.
How long did you do door-to-door sales, and then what did that teach you? I mean, I did it for 9 months. It was probably, I say, is one of the hardest, best experiences of my life. But how long did you do it, and then what did you learn from it that was like most
I was in
helpful?
it for 5 years. So going into my senior year of university there, and it was, I don't know what program you're in, they were just summer programs. Yeah. So you would start end of April, like April 30th, you would end, August 30th. So just a 4-month time period. It wasn't year round like some of it is now. And you just sell as much as you could in the summer, and then you make enough money where you didn't have to work while you're going to school. What did I learn from it? I learned, this is where I really started to understand buyer psychology, because as you know, they give you a script, and maybe they're like, hey, read this book. And the manager gives you a few things, and they drive you out in a van and kick you out of the van and hey, we'll pick you up after dark. It's going to be easy. And so I remember my sales manager, he was like, hey, you got to knock on 100 doors. About 30 people are going to be there. You're going to talk to 30, and your goal is to sell one. I remember that was one of the first things he said. But in my mind, I've always been a person that questions everything. I don't just accept somebody telling me something. Right. So I was just like, why would I only want to sell one? If I can help all 30 people, why can't I talk to 10 and sell 7? So that's the way my brain thinks. And so I'd go knock on a door, didn't really know what I was doing the first couple weeks, couple months. And when the door slammed or they said not interested, what do most salespeople do door to door? They're like, oh, this area is bad, or the people are mean, or everybody's broke. They're always blaming the prospect. Well, in my mind, because I'm going to school at that point, to become a psychologist. So I'm learning about how the brain works. How does the nervous system work? So I focused on neuropsychology, study of how the brain works in conjunction with the human being's nervous system. So I would see them go into fight or flight mode, and I'm like, oh, what did I? And I reverse engineer, like, what did I say, or how did I use my tone that triggered that reaction? Because they didn't just like plan on slamming the door in my face. It's not like they planned like, hey, when a door-to-door guy comes around, I'm going to slam it in his face. That's a triggered reaction based off something I did that triggered that. And so I just started reverse engineering, like, well, this doesn't trigger, this actually triggers. And, slowly you start eliminate all of those mistakes. And by default, you just start selling them.
Yeah, I didn't know you got a degree in psychology. Did you finish school?
I dropped out my senior year. I still have 8 credits left. I literally have 8
Why did you drop out?
I mean, the summer before I made close to $500,000. This was in 2004.
Okay.
So, you go to school, you're in algebra, college algebra, and your professor's making $70,000 and you're like making more than he does in a month. It's hard to stay in school. And at that point, I knew I was going to have a career in sales and like sales leadership at that point because I liked it so much. And I'm like, I'm not going to become a psychologist. So.
But I feel like you must use that a lot in selling. I mean, do you think that's why you're so good at it?
I mean, at least my grandma says that I was good at it. But yes, I reverse NEPQ. That's what it is. Neuro-Emotional Persuasion Questioning. So neuro stands for how does the brain work in conjunction with the nervous system? E stands for emotional, the emotional connection. P, persuasion. How do you get someone to persuade themselves? And Q stands for questioning. How do I reframe the questions I'm using? How do I interrupt patterns? Right? So what are some patterns that most prospects would be used to? Whether it's door to door or if you get on a virtual appointment or on the phone, a lot of salespeople ask predictable questions like, hey, how's it going? Or how's your day? And a lot of us don't really realize that question is a predictable question that the prospect's brain is used to from every person who's ever tried to sell them anything. And so anytime you put them in that state where the prospect's brain, our survival part of our brain picks up on those patterns, right? So anytime you ask predictable questions like that, the prospect's brain goes where? Oh, they've heard that same question by 50 different salespeople selling them anything. And they might have had negative experiences with those other salespeople. So instantly, we might think we're being polite by saying, how's your day going? But in a prospect's mind, they're saying, well, he's just trying to get me to like him so that he can sell me my thing. You see the difference. And now the guard's already up. They might not be like, well, hey, enough with the questions. Just tell me how much it's going to cost. But then when you start asking questions, what do? They start giving you vague, generalized surface level answers. That means they're already emotionally shut down.
So if I had to kind of boil down what you do and what you teach to something really simple, would you say that the goal is to ask an original question that makes them think of something different? So like you were just saying, hey, you ask them these common questions and their brain immediately goes to this answer. Is the goal to try to ask maybe different questions that are a little bit more original so they don't go there?
You want to interrupt the pattern. Right. Yeah. So all great people that have mastered anything are experts at recognizing patterns. Tony Robbins talks a lot about this. So I love Tony because he talks about everybody that masters anything recognizes patterns. That's the first thing. Russell Brunson will tell you that about marketing. You recognize patterns. Sales is the same thing. You recognize patterns. So let's say if instead of getting on there, like say it's a virtual appointment, if your guys sell on Zoom, I think your team probably sells like inbound or something, books appointments. So instead of getting on there like, hey, how's it going? Where do you live? Oh, I live here and blah, 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 blah. Those are predictable questions everybody's used to. So I might get on there, and like, hey, can you hear me? Something like that. You go there. Okay, so just now, do they fill out an application with you?
Yeah,
okay.
They do.
All right, so I was just looking at your application. Looks like you booked in about, I guess, looking at getting maybe some possible help with your SOPs and your operations so you can scale your company, right?
Correct, yeah.
Right. So what am I doing? So one aspect I want to start doing is, like, I'll give you an example. What's one of the first questions that you start thinking about anytime a salesperson first starts talking to you? How much?
Yeah, how much is it going to cost?
It's going to cost. But why does the human brain go there? Why do we ask ourselves that question?
I mean, I would say for me, because I'm just trying to get to the bottom line, like brass tacks.
Well, that's everybody. Yeah. Everybody thinks, like, how much is this going to cost? Like, it's a thought because it's conditioned patterns, right? So do I want to keep that prospect in price or cost-based thinking that entire conversation? Unlikely. I want to start reframing them into results-based thinking. So notice the first question on my mouth. Okay, so it looks like you booked on the counter about looking at getting some possible help with your like operations and SOPs so you can scale your company, right? You're not selling business consulting to what you do. You're selling the results of what the consulting does, which is to help them scale the company. So immediately I'm starting to shift their mind from price or cost to end result. That's why they're on the call. And they're like, yeah, right. Okay, so hey, when you were talking now, did they talk to an SDR before they book?
It depends. Sometimes they do. Well, either that in a DM or like an SDR,
Okay.
correct? Yeah. Both.
So let's just say that they talk to an SDR. So this is called a connection question. Okay, so hey, when you were talking with one of my associates, Billy, what was it that you guys kind of went over that caused you to feel like, hey, maybe I need to look into this further? Now, what are they going to do? I caused their brain to focus on what? The conversation they just had and what was said there that caused them to notice how I'm still neutral. Want to look into this further, not like want to book this call with me. A lot of times salespeople lose a lot of sales because they try to assume the sale too early in the conversation before they have much trust or credibility. Like how much trust or credibility do you have in the first 1 or 2 minutes of Not much, right? And so a lot of salespeople try to assume too early, and especially if it's like an A-type personality, they're like, well, I'm just kind of looking, or well, I'm not ready to buy yet. And they're triggering that reaction. So if I'm more neutral, more like, it looks like you booked on the counter about possibly looking at ways to grow your company through operations. That word possibly kind of makes it more neutral. When I start building more of that gap throughout the conversation, then I start getting more assumptive because I have more trust, I have more pain.
When you're trying to teach this method, is it more kind of scripted where it's a little bit more word for word or there's like bullet points, or do you just try to like teach your sales team, I guess internally, kind of more frameworks to think through?
We always teach frameworks. So the biggest question that companies have when they come to us is like, how are you guys able to train every industry? Because we train every industry in the world now. There's 163 verticals according to Forbes with, different things in those, like home improvement would be an industry, but then you'd have doors, windows, cabinets. We train all those too. Yeah. So how we're able to do that is we teach the frameworks. Okay, so we teach connection questions. Here's the 3 reasons why I'm asking them. Take the focus off you, put it on them. How do I disarm the prospect to let their guard down? And number 3, how do I take them from price or cost-based thinking to results-based thinking? So then we teach them how to ask questions around that, and we teach that framework, and they can fill in the different lingo in that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
It's kind of like this. Like there's salespeople and sales trainers are always like, there's some that are like, you need a script, and there's some that are like, you don't need a script. The problem is like they're both wrong. Because imagine a Hollywood actor or actress. Everything they say in that movie is 100% what?
Right.
Scripted.
Yeah, scripted, yeah.
But does it sound scripted?
No.
No, because they understand frameworks. So what that is you want to have a framework, a structure you follow with questions, but that doesn't mean you ask word for word every single prospect the same questions, because that makes you sound like a scripted robot. You have to be able to know, okay, I'm asking, let's say, situation questions because I need to help find out what the real situation is. So if I ask a couple questions before that, each prospect is going to give me different answers, right? I want to be able to take what they just told me and then tweak my next question based off what they just told me. That causes the prospect to start to feel like you understand them. And then there's that emotional connection when they feel that. You don't sound like a scripted robot.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it takes a little more skill, but it's definitely the right way because you're going to get a lot more sales. And like you said, people are going to connect with you a lot more.
Yeah, look, mastering selling is something that, I was talking to Dean. I cannot pronounce Dean's last name. Graziosi. Yeah. Just had him on. I just joined the Zenith group with him and Tony and stuff, and I just had him on the podcast. And we talked about the same thing. Like, look, mastery is something that you're always doing. Like to master selling, if you're familiar with Brad Lee, it's train something you did or it's train something you do. What's something you do if you want to be really good at whatever it is, right? Like with you, it's not like I learned how to, run a business and I don't need to learn anything else ever again.
Right.
You're probably always learning new things to keep up and to get better. The same is true in sales. You're always learning, you're always tweaking, you're always getting better. I think one of the biggest problems is most people take advice from people who are not that qualified to give that advice.
Of course. So you seem deeply grounded to me. Has, faith or spirituality played your role in your development as a leader and a man? I don't know if it has or not.
I feel like it does. And I feel like that's an ever learning process. I'm not a person that's going to claim I know everything. I don't think anybody knows everything. I think all of us, like every faith in the world, knows like this much. And I think we'll all find out. I think it probably takes more faith to not believe in God than it does to believe in God, in my mind. I think it takes more faith to believe all this happened by accident and we're just kind of all here. Right. I mean, you even look at like a woman's reproductive system, like that just magically happened. Yeah. Like there's a lot of nuances that had to go into everything. So
you went to UVU. So, I mean, I was born in Utah, so I grew up like an LDS background. Did you grow up?
I'm LDS, yeah.
Okay. Are you still active?
I go here and there. Okay. I should probably go every week. I just don't go all the time.
Interesting.
But I'm LDS. I have beliefs outside the LDS faith as well. Like I have a lot of different beliefs that might be crazy and stuff to some people, but I like them. But my company, Seventh Level, the reason why I named it Seventh Level is so my degree was in psychology, right, but I minored in New Testament Christianity because I'm fascinated with history. Okay. And so in those courses, we focused on the early Christian church from like the time of Christ till about 300, 400 AD and their belief systems, and then other religion like Islam. What were their earliest belief systems compared to now? Buddhism. What was their earliest belief systems compared to now? Because typically belief systems shift and change depending on the time and the social situation. And it's very fascinating. Like if you go back to earliest Christianity, not Christianity now, but if you go back to early Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, all the major religions of the world, there were some core beliefs that really all of them believed in. One of them was this common belief that when you died, a person didn't necessarily go to one or two places, like a heaven or a hell. That's kind of more like just kind of happened, like more, that belief system came from like Catholicism, medieval times, different things like that. But there was a belief that there was different levels or different degrees of glory. It's like the LDS faith we call it, right? Or, Corinthians talks about Paul. And in those degrees, depending on, how you were with your other people and the love you had for people, those type of things, keeping the commandments, there was, in my house are many mansions. So different degrees. So at the seventh level, that's where God dwelt. So literally, if you go back to Hinduism, Buddhism, early Christianity, Islam, they believe that God dwelt in the seventh heaven or the seventh level. 7 is a very sacred number in Judaism as well. And so that's where God is perfected. That's where he's perfect. So in order to become like him, you have to inherit the 7th levels of heaven. So that's where I came up with 7th level, like perfecting your communication. Yeah.
If someone was, I mean, there's a lot of religions and I don't want to delve too deep into it, but if someone's confused and there's like, man, there's a lot of religions, there's a lot of stuff out there, like based on what you know, psychology, like you've been in religion for a while, like where can they look for the right answers? Like how would you even like go about it?
I think you really have to find the true sources of where they came from, because sources can be manipulated by people who don't like that religion, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Just like now, like you see like a Charlie Kirk, because I'm not really into politics. I'm an independent. Same. I'm just kind of like, I teach salespeople how to sell companies. Like they can be Democrat, Republican, whatever. Like I'm just teaching how to sell. I don't get into politics. But I do remember when this happened, and I was like, this is crazy. Somebody was murdered for their political beliefs. Like this is not America. Like if your arguments are that weak that you can't defend your arguments, you have to take somebody out. What does that say about your arguments? Not very good. And I remember somebody told me, they're like, oh, I can't believe you believe in that racist. I'm like, what do you mean by racist? When they sent me this clip, it's like a 30-second clip, and the way they had it edited made it sound really racist. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. But I went back and watched the original whole thing for 30 minutes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they edit out this, they edit out this, they edited out this, where it explains that, where it didn't sound racist at all. And that's why I always say, go back to the original source. So if you're looking for a church or religion, go back to the original founders and source and like read their materials and what they believed in, not what a critic writes a book, because they're probably going to edit out stuff that is pretty good and they kind of manipulate that sometimes. I would always say that.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
So you have 5 kids. I thought you had 2, but
5, man.
Yeah, you told me off
basketball
camera.
team.
Yeah, you got a little basketball team. So, just talk about like how becoming a father, like it didn't just shift your mindset, but like day-to-day schedule, priorities. Like, I mean, I don't have kids yet, so I'm just thinking when I have kids, it'll probably change a little bit how I run a business. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It really depends. First of all, like when you have your first child, your life will change because that is your purpose now. Like your purpose is your business, helping people, those type of things. And that will always be mine with what we do. But like my kids, like that's your family. Like that's who God sent you to like take care of and provide for and protect. So life starts to become a lot different in that way. I never found that like I didn't have to work as much or do that type of thing. I just found, and I'm not the most perfect person in this. I'm always working on this, but I found when I spent really good quality time with them, even if it was just for a couple of hours a day, that was more important than me sitting on the couch for 6 hours a day, not hardly even talking to them. Now I'm not perfect on that. My kids will be like, Dad, you're always on your phone. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to put my phone down. But that really helped me like put my phone down, like maybe from like 6 to 8 p.m. and like, don't look at the phone, just focus on the kids. And sometimes it's really hard, especially when you own a business. Yeah. Like I didn't start my own company until this company back in 2019. We're 6 years in now. Like that was the first time I ever started my own company. I had been an employee for 18 years before that. I had 18-year sales career,
Wow. So was those 18 years of sales, was that all door to door the entire time?
No. The first 4.5 years was door to door. Then the next 5, I got into B2B, like enterprise sales. I sold debt relief services, mainly to SMB, some mid-level, few enterprise, but mainly SMB. Had a really great career there. Then for the next 5 years, I got into network marketing. I'm actually still in the Network Marketing Hall of Fame.
Wow.
If you Google my name.
Really?
You can make a lot of money in network marketing, yeah. Network marketing was the easiest sale in the world. Like people are like, it has the highest failure rate because that's one thing I don't like about that industry is the owners like, there's no selling involved. Like hand out these things, bring them to the meetings, we'll close them for you. That's the biggest lie ever. And that's why people get so disappointed. So what I did is I taught people I recruited how to recruit the right way. Because I was always like, everybody's a prospect in the world now. I'm not like, debt relief, like you're only a prospect if you have debt, right? Like alarms, you're only a prospect if you own the home. Back in the day, now they do renters. Yeah. But in network marketing, everybody wants to make more money. Everybody wants to have more time. Right. I'm like, everybody's a prospect. I was like, this is the easiest thing in the world if you learn the right skills. And
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So what's interesting to me is I had John Mattson on here the other day and
John.
Yeah, John. Yeah. I don't know if you're in your in your 30s or 40s either.
I'm in my 40s.
Yeah, which is surprising to me because
I'm around the same age. I'm a couple of years older than John. John works at the same gym.
You look great.
John's at the same gym.
Yeah, dude. Like you look great. I thought you were like definitely in your 30s. So kudos to you.
Thanks,
but,
man.
But I guess
a bunch of blueberries.
The question I had is, it's surprising to me where I see someone who maybe starts a business a little bit later. It's not like you're ancient, but like, instead of your 20s, you started in your 30s and then you've had a lot of success. And I would say on average, like the average person I see who gets in their 30s, like they start maybe like, oh, like I've missed my chance. Like it's too late. Like, what I did, it didn't work, whatever. So can you maybe talk a little bit about the mindset or what made you shift? And you've done super, super well.
My mindset was like, I have to have enough experience at the highest level to have the credibility to do this. Does that make sense? It wasn't like I was born thinking, hey, one day I'm going to start a sales training company. Okay. So, had an 18-year sales career, sold 4 different industries, completely different industries. Okay. I was the number 1 salesperson in all those industries worldwide, making multiple 7 figures a year in commissions.
Which is crazy, by the way. Like, I've never even heard that before.
If you learn how to sell, it's easy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's really easy once you learn the right skills. It's a different thing, Now, in alarms, I didn't make that. I want to make sure. In alarms, because you only work 4 months.
Right.
But I was making $100,000 a month
which
those
is crazy,
4 months, which 20 years ago was
a lot more. Yeah,
it's now.
Way more.
But in other industries, it was year round. Yeah. That's where I got up to that level. Then I retired. Didn't know what I was going to do. Had made some real estate investments. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then everybody kept telling me during my sales career, everybody's telling me, you got to start your own sales training company. You're going to be the next Brian Tracy. I'm like, Brian's a nice guy, but I'm not the next anybody. I'm just me.
Yeah.
That's how you have to say that. When people say like, I'm going to be the next Tony Robbins, I'm like, you're never going to make it. Because if that's what you believe, you don't believe in yourself. Like you're the next, excuse my language, effing you. Like there's nobody else but you. Like you have to take that on like a Kobe Bryant. Like, no, I'm like the next Kobe Bryant. Like I am Kobe Bryant. You know what I mean? You have to take that confidence. But I felt like I needed to have experience at the highest level to do that. So when I see a lot of people like start something really, really early and they don't have that much experience, it's really interesting for me because I'm like, you're saying that you're going to help people do this, but you've never mastered that thing yourself.
Interesting, yeah.
Now, if you're younger and you mastered that, by all means. But typically you don't master anything until, what's the old saying, you got 10,000 hours of high success in that. So I'm always very hesitant in like doing business with people that are brand new to the ballgame. I got invited to, like, example, this dinner with this guy that just started his own hedge fund. And I'm like, oh man, this is great. Like, what's your experience? Like, where did you used to work for this? He's like, oh yeah, man, I work for Goldman Sachs. Like, how long were you with Goldman for? He's like, oh man, like 14 months. I just knew I had to start my own thing, blah, blah. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, this dude has 14 months of investing experience. Ain't no way in hell I'm giving him my money because he doesn't have enough wisdom and experience. Because what would he have done in the crash of 2008?
Yeah.
He doesn't have the experience. He might have been good for that 1 year, but you need experience. Like the more experience you have, the more wisdom you have. And I'm like, I'm not going to invest my money with that. Like I want somebody that's been investing for 20 plus years that has seen everything. And at a high level. That person has experience. That means they have more wisdom.
Did you ever think about starting your own company though? Because you said you did sales for 18 years and you basically were an employee.
I was also like a VP of sales, a chief sales officer.
Okay, so you're still higher up.
Yeah.
Did you ever want to start before then, or you were just like kind of content, and then once you kind of retired, then? Kind
of when I retired, I'd always had it in the back of my mind, and when I retired, just more and more people kept like coming to me like for consulting because I was kind of bored. And they're like, hey, can you teach our salespeople how to sell? So I took on like a couple of different accounts, just kind of part-time, and they were getting really, really good results. And they're just like, you got to do this, and the rest is history.
Wow.
I spent like 6 months in my man cave, and I wrote out the first training program for like 6 months, how I wanted to structure all that stuff. Then I shot it, and then the first year did like 3 webinars. We did like 1.3 million sales from those 3 webinars. I spent 1.9 though. Wow. So I lost 600 grand my first year. You're like, wow, that's great. No, I lost 600 grand the first year. And so my mindset was, how many years can I keep losing 600,000 every single year before I have to go out of retirement and go back to work? Yeah. And so, it takes a while to get the right
I just think
there.
it's impressive from the standpoint of like you started quote unquote later. I don't know, but it seems like, people are usually starting in their 20s, and if it doesn't work out, they move on. But you start later and you've had a lot of success.
I always say like, look, there's younger people that start things that do really, really well, but typically those people have a mentor. Like, I don't really know anybody that just kind of winged it really young and figured it out themselves in a year, right? They had some type of mentor that showed them, what not to do and what to do. So their learning curve like speed tracked, and they had a lot of success working for a company. I think that takes a little bit of time to do. So I just really think, I never want to say it's a straitjacket interpretation, but for me, having the 18 years of experience at that high level allows me to be able to go out and train every industry in the world. Whereas, let's say if I'd only sold alarms for 4 years and then started, I wouldn't have had the wisdom and experience to go outside of that industry. I'd be stuck just training the door-to-door industry.
I agree. I look back, and I probably should have even had more experience, but the way it started for me is I had a little success in the fitness industry, and then a bunch of people, like trainers, started asking me for help. That's how it started. And I was like, that wasn't even something I thought about at all,
Right.
But yeah, kudos to you for spending that many years.
And look,
doing it.
I'm still learning. Like we still make a lot of mistakes in our own company, but we're always like me and Dean were talking, like, I know nothing, I'm a student. If you take that approach in life that you know nothing and you're just trying to soak up everything like a sponge, let go of the ego, you outlearn everybody else that stays stuck by their ego.
So your objection handling around things like, I need to talk to my spouse, has gone viral. I've seen a couple of those.
Okay.
What's the real psychological trigger behind that response? Like, I need to talk to my spouse.
Well, okay, so it's understanding what causes objections. Most salespeople just react to objections. I want to know what causes that reaction, because whether the prospect says, I don't have, look, unless you're selling a $10 million solution to a homeless person, most people or most companies can find the funds or funding if they really want to. It's not like that money doesn't exist. They're already spending that money on something else, which is more of a priority in their mind at that point than what you're offering. And how do I switch what the priorities are, where they're currently spending that money, to now your solution is number one priority. That's what selling is in an overview. But it's understanding like what causes an objection. Like, did the prospect wake up that morning and like, hey, when Tanner's guy gets on here at 3 p.m. for this inbound appointment, I think at the end I'm going to throw out, I need to talk with my spouse, and then I'm going to blow him off for a couple of weeks and then ghost him. Like, they didn't plan that out. That's just a reaction, right? The reaction comes from, at the core of every human being, we all have a fear of change. So every objection any objection you get comes from, they have to give you money before they see what that change looks like. And that's what's scary. So like the brain, right, was never built by God for us to thrive. It was built for us to survive. That's what your brain was designed to do. Like, how do you stay alive? So anytime the brain senses something that is new, that is unfamiliar, there's always that like, what if it won't work out? That's what the brain does. It's like its last attempt to keep you in the status quo like everybody else. So what salespeople have to do is they have to master how to help them overcome that fear of change. And that's really objection prevention. So like, I could show you like, how do I overcome the thinking over objection? But we train people like how to prevent that from happening. A lot of that is, you want me to go into this?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Sigmund Freud, like a lot of people ask me where I got NEPQ from. A lot of it was just probably like just classes I took in college, the theories, right? Because Sigmund Freud doesn't teach you like, hey, here's how you disarm the prospect. Sigmund Freud might say like, you want to make sure that when you're talking to a patient that you calm their nervous system. That's what I mean when I say disarm the prospect. Scientifically, I'm calming the nervous system. The nervous system is what that causes somebody to be like, hey, I'm not interested, or we're good, or just tell me the price. I tell you, the nervous system's triggered. So how do I calm the nervous system? Okay. So Sigmund Freud said it best. He said, people do who they believe they are. People do who they believe they are. So what he's saying is people make decisions based on the identity of the person who they believe they are. So if your prospect believes before they have to make a decision that they always have to talk to their spouse, more than likely, what objection are you probably going to get at the end? That I need to talk to my spouse, okay? So how do I prevent that from happening? I start to build that prospect into the identity of the person who becomes a buyer. So rather than, a lot of people be like, you have to qualify the prospect. Some of that is true. Like if you get red flags like, hey, is this going to cost money? I've only got $10 maybe. That's a red flag. I need to qualify them. For the most part, people can get the funds. So rather than qualify them, how do I build the prospect into the identity of the person who becomes a buyer? That's identity framing. Okay. Milton Erickson taught this with patients, Sigmund Freud. So let's say, as an example, let's just use your industry. Okay. So let's say they get on there and they say like, hey, I'm looking at this because I really want to scale my business, and, I'm just tired of staying at the same revenue we're at, or something like that. So most salespeople are like, okay, that's great. And then they just go to the next question. So what I want to do is start building that person into a frame and preventing the spouse objection if I know he has a spouse. Okay. So I might be something like, so if I'm talking to a guy, it's going to be a little bit different than a lady boss. I'll show you the two examples. So I'm like, wow, it sounds like you're the type of person that's a forward thinker. That's a label. So I'm labeling first. Wow, it sounds like you're the type of person who's a forward thinker. And your spouse, she's lucky to have a provider like you that is that forward thinking, that responsible, and knows that you have to make the hard decisions for your business yourself. I mean, I talk to a lot of people, and you'd be surprised how many of them, they don't really care about putting that burden and stress on their spouse. You know what I mean? And then they're like, oh, no, I'm not like that. I talk to a lot of people. You'd be surprised how many of them, like, they say they want to grow their business, but then they never get the help to actually grow the business. You know what I mean? Oh, no, that's not me. Like, for you, like, being that responsible where you have to make these hard decisions for yourself, is that something you were born with or something you had to learn? Now, see what I did there. So the first part is I'm putting them into an identity. It's called a positive identity. When I say, wow, your spouse, she's lucky to have for a man, a provider like you, every guy wants to be a provider like you that is that forward thinking and that responsible, even if they're not forward thinking, even if they're not responsible, are they going to argue with that? They're like, no, that's me. Because that's an identity they want to be. Right. And then notice how I'm starting to deframe. It's called a deframe them out of special that knows they have to make the hard decisions for their business themselves sometimes. And then I keep going. Okay, so that's a positive identity. Okay. Then the second part is a negative identity. I'm wanting them to move away from the negative identity. I mean, I talk to a lot of people, and you'd be surprised how many of them, they say they want to scale their business, but then they never actually get the training that shows them how to do that. You know what I mean? Right. Nobody wants to be that guy, right? They're like, no, that's not me. I'm always looking for, and then I need to reinforce the frame at the end. I mean, for you, like being that forward thinking, like that responsible, is that something you were born with or something you had to learn? No matter if they say, I've always been that way or something I had to learn, that just means they're starting to buy into the what? The new identity. Right. So it's just, there's more to that as you go, but I'm starting to build them into that identity.
Yeah, I love how you think about sales, because that's, even when I was doing door to door, I would just think, what do I have to say to get them to think the way I think? Yeah. And I think that's 100% exactly what you're doing. And that's really what you have to dial it down to, because people will go, well, I don't know what to say. It's like, okay, well, if they're saying this, they're not going to buy. You want them to say this. What do you need to say to get them to think that? And I think that's really kind of how you're breaking it down in short, and it's brilliant.
Yeah. So lots of fun.
Yeah. So I was just saying earlier, like, you look younger than you are. I was a little shocked when
I ate a lot of blueberries, dude.
Yeah, it must be the blueberries, because I was a little bit shocked. So do you have a current fitness routine or routine that you've done that seems to help?
I'm friends with the owner of Glory Gains Gym up here in North Scottsdale. Yeah. And I go there 4 times a week when I'm in town. There's sometimes, I've got a keynote, I'm out of town. So I try to go there 4 times a week. They do a lot of HIIT training, and I do group classes with him. There's 4 of us guys. And then I try to go to CrossFit once a week at Lifetime Fitness. I have a CrossFit class. I have a membership there. So when I'm in town, I go 5 times a week. When I'm not in town, sometimes it might only be 2 or 3. But I always tell the gym owner, I come to the gym so I don't get fat. That fear drives me because I don't want to get fat. Yeah. I don't need to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just don't want to get fat, because there's a lot of people that I graduated high school from. I see them and I'm like, bro, what the hell, man? You're complaining about your relationship, but your freaking wife doesn't like you because you're freaking fat. You're out of control. Stop eating the donuts, man. Go do something about it. You're complaining about your marriage. Well, she's probably not attracted to you anymore, man. So that's what I do. I go not to get fat. That's
as basic as it gets too, but it's working for you. Keep it up, because
I'm nothing crazy.
Yeah, I was surprised, because you look like you definitely look younger.
Thank you, man. Thanks, dude. You look good too, man.
Appreciate it. Okay, so 7th level, let's move a little bit into that. It's one of the largest, sales training orgs probably around that I've seen.
Revenue-wise, we're ranked largest B2C sales training company globally now, and we're the 4th or 5th largest in the B2B space.
You're big. So what were the real bottlenecks on the way up, if any?
We still have bottlenecks, everybody. But yes, I think that the biggest bottlenecks that any company has, and especially what we had, is having the right people in the right positions. Because you know this as well as I do. When you're a startup, 5-6 years ago, it's you have the sales guy, and you're like, the sales guy's kind of average, but seems really organized. We should make him the COO. And now they're running ops, but they've never done it before, right? And so a lot of times you just have to do that at the very beginning. You just don't know what you don't know, right? I didn't have really any business training. I was a very high level VP of sales for some huge companies, CSO for a couple big, huge companies. So I saw it from that end, but it's completely different when you're the one owning the business,
right? And
you have all the risk is on you compared to an employee that has stock options or something. So it's a whole different ballgame. So it's it's finding the right people that are strong in the areas that you're weak in, and like letting them do the thing that you don't know how to do. And that took me a little bit, a couple of years to find the right people. And I always say this, and I learned this from the founder of Vivint, Todd Peterson. Right. I remember sitting in his office one day, and there's like 6 or 7 of us. He's like, look, as the company gets bigger, because I think we were already doing like 150 million a year or something at that point. It's like, as the company gets bigger, as we get to 2, 3, 4, 500, he's like, everybody has to level up their skills to grow with the company and skill level. Otherwise, when companies start having more cash flow coming in, they can just go hire somebody who's already done the thing they want to do from a bigger company, and they're going to replace you unless you level up your skill level. Right. And that's stuck in my brain. That's why I'm always leveling up my skill level, because everybody's replaceable. I don't care who you are, you're replaceable. I always call them the Heisman Trophy winners. They're always talking about their days in high school football or college. Like, nobody cares, man. Like, what are you doing right now? You get in the NFL, nobody cares about what you did in college. Like, what are you doing today? And so it's finding the right people. And as your company grows, it's like painting this vision where they know they have to level up their skill just like I do to get to the next level. Because if you don't, like, there's somebody else out there that already has that skill set, has already done the thing that you're wanting to do. Like, let's say scale a company to 500 million. I'm just making up a number, and you can bring that person in. And so it's really the bottlenecks for my business in the early days. And sometimes even now, it's like, is this person really the right person for this position? And how long do you keep them in that position if they're not?
So I want to talk a little bit about your philosophy on building a team. So for example, for me, what I've noticed over the years is if someone thinks a little too differently than me in like specific areas, they usually don't work out. Meaning, if I value hard work and I value, like telling the truth, showing up on time, stuff like that. And they're just kind of like, yeah, it's whatever. And like, I've noticed I have more issues with those types of people. So as you've scaled your team, do you have kind of a philosophy on what you're looking for when you're hiring? Because I know for me, like over the years, that's what I just look for is like, do they value some of the similar things I value? And when they do, it seems not everything, not like they don't have to go to the gym and stuff like that, but it's like, hard work, discipline, they want to improve, they want to excel. Like, it seems like those people do better. So have you seen anything in your company?
I don't do any of the hiring, because we have like HR, all those people that do that. I'm kind of removed from that sense, but like I do participate in like another sales manager or like our VP of sales. I help pick those type of things because I understand that ball game. And the biggest thing that I look for, and I know that our company looks for, is commitment. Like, that is the foundation of anyone. If you're not committed, it's really hard to do anything else great. Like, to me, like the first stone on the house, the block, the foundation is commitment. Everything else above that starts with commitment. Because if you're not committed, you're not going to learn more skills, right? If you're not committed, you're not going to show up on time. If you're not committed, you're not going to do your best. Like, commitment to me is the number one attribute that my company looks for.
How do you try to identify that? Like, how do you get on an interview your team and, hey, they seem committed?
Man, I should have my CEO Curtis on here because he wrote a book called Talent Management.
Okay.
So Curtis Weeks, he's a stud. So he has a book out there you can buy called Talent Management. He is so good at this stuff. There's just different questions. I'm not an expert on this. There's different questions they ask, and depending on how they answer those, and they're more indirect questions. Like, hey, like, what was a time in your life where like you messed up something really, really bad, and what did you do when you messed up? And there's like a certain answer they're looking for. If they're like, well, I shrugged it off and just went on, if they're vague, or if they're like, I owned up to it. I was responsible and I went about like doing this, and this to make up for it. They're going to take that answer better than like, well, I just shrugged it off and just went on to, and did something else. So I'm probably giving you vague answers here because it's not my expertise.
That's okay.
But we look for, the thing is, for the day, is commitment. We're going to hire these people to commit. So there's different questions they ask to kind of find out if they're committed or not.
I would agree with what you're saying. I mean, the biggest thing for me is like, it's certain attributes. And then obviously if they have experience, like, if they've done it before, man, if you can get those two things. But a lot of times in the past, they would say stuff. And I remember my COO would say, oh, Tanner, like, your expectations are too high. Like, you just want too much from people and stuff. And I thought, I was like, I'm a little crazy. So
your expectations have to be out of
right,
but
you
think Elon
to.
Musk's expectations are on high, or Jeffrey Bezos, or anybody that's at a high level?
Correct. And so I started going the other way, and I was like, man, this is not the right way, because I just started like getting a little lax, like, I wouldn't say that, but I'm a little too crazy. So, but if you lower the standards for your team and you make the first hire and you're not willing to wait it out, I just think you always regret it.
People get used to that.
Yep.
They just develop a pattern. It's a behavioral pattern, right? I totally agree with you. Like, you need to be, like, I look at anybody that's great in business, like their expectations are completely out of this world. That's why they're so great. That's why they build great teams. And I believe you can, I was talking to our CEO the other day, Curtis, and I was like, hey, this guy's having this problem, as a department head, like, how do we build him into the identity of a great department head? Like, not that he's not qualified, but how do we build him into that identity of the person who is? And I also believe that can happen as well if you know how to do that.
Yeah. So you've been CEO for what, 6 years now, or I guess the owner of a company?
I'm just the founder.
The founder. Yeah. Is there any, like a painful but necessary decision you had to make?
Oh, lots of painful, necessary decisions. Yikes. Trying to think of the most painful experience I've ever had to do. One thing was painful is we had, this was probably, when was this, 8-9 months ago, we had to let our top salesperson go. We have like 45 some salespeople, like between SDRs and guys, closers and stuff. And we had to let our top person go. And I still love this kid. He's like my son. I'd have him over to my house, because he was young. He was very young. He's like, 20 years old and stuff. I hired him when he was like 17 or 18. Like, his mom got permission for him to work. He was a stud. Trained him a ton of stuff, and had to let him go because he had like 30 some complaints with HR. Just not good. Like, socially, just mean to like women, stuff like that. And like, I let some of that stuff go in the beginning because he was so good. Right. But eventually, like, our legal counsel were like, hey, we have to let him go. Like, we could get in trouble for this. Like, this, he's out of control, and he's not, his ego. And I'd always tell him, like, hey, brother, ego is a silent killer of all dreams. Always drop your ego, apologize, and just change. And for some reason, he just, in his head, couldn't do that, and we had to let him go. And that was really hard for me because it wasn't just our top salesperson, but I viewed him as like one of my sons. Yeah. That was tough.
Yeah, it's tough when they're not a culture fit anymore, because just eventually they start bringing everyone else down. And
it was affecting the other salespeople, because then they're like, well, Yash is getting away, then why can't I do it too? And so it's like, it's a culture killer, So
you've grown, you got big IG, big YouTube. It performs pretty consistently. What would you say are your top tips for building a large social media following?
I'll give you the best advice I have. I'm by all means not an expert in organic social media. I'm still learning this. I think it's just having really good content. I mean, I didn't know anything about hooks or anything like that. I'm still learning that, but it's just like having good content, and content that's relevant to the audience you want to target. Like, if I wanted to target a generic audience, I could probably have on Instagram 4 or 5 million followers right now. But ours are very narrow because we're just targeting salespeople, right? And so when you look at my reels, like 80-90% of them are about say this, do this. It's all about sales and persuasion. It's not like, here's my favorite, cheeseburger at, McDonald's to eat that nobody cares about, right? You could get more views on that, more followers or whatever it is, but it has nothing to do with what I do or what problems I solve. Right. And so that's why our Instagram or social media make a lot of money, because it's very targeted to the audience we want to target. It's not like so broad, if that makes sense. So I would say sometimes have a smaller audience, but target it better. You'll actually make more money and you'll have a much bigger company. Like I've talked to sales trainers that have, on Instagram, 4 or 5 million followers, and I've only got like, I think 1.1, 1.2 or something. And when I talk to them about numbers, they're like, yeah, we did 4 million last year. And I'm like, geez, like 10 times more than that. Yeah, you're like, I have way less followers, but like I'm a business owner. I'm not an influencer. I don't care about looking cool. Like, this is just this is a way to get the message out there. but at the end of the day, like we're helping salespeople as a companies learn how to sell more. Like we're a business, and I think a lot of people forget that.
So some content strategists will say, I've heard this, they'll say, hey, you need to do broad content to like get a lot of eyeballs, bring people in, and then you can follow that up with more specific content for your buyers. Like, do you feel that would be a wrong strategy?
We tried that approach, and our revenue from organic went down by 40-50%, like overnight. Just dropped. And we started losing some followers because they're like, this wasn't what I was here for. Nobody cares about Jeremy's car or something. Like, nobody cares about that, right? They just want to learn how to sell. So we tried that. For us, it didn't work as well.
Do you have any buckets? So, like, maybe this is on, like, sales objections, and then this is like door-to-door sales, or I don't know. Do you have anything that you kind of mix it up with, or do you have a team that runs that?
We do. We have I have a content director, Andy. She's great. Okay. We got people in our content team. Video editors, all that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah. We have a whole content team here at our offices in Scottsdale. But it's basically they just go and find out what people are searching on YouTube and Google and ChatGPT, and we do content around that.
Yeah. So for you, I'm assuming you just show up and they have somewhat scripted or like bullet points, and then you do your thing.
More like bullet points. Yeah, more like bullet points. That's better for me because they're not going to be able to script it out like I would.
Right.
And I don't have time to like write out a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's just some bullet points. I might scratch out, and put 2 or 3 different words in, and just away we go. And sometimes, like when I was driving here with Ben, my videographer, we just shot a real quick reel. Right. Something was on my mind. We just shot it real quick. Right. So it just depends.
When you were building your content team from scratch, I don't know if you did it or your CEO, but was there anything specific you would look for? Because sometimes I feel, and maybe some of the listeners, when you're building a content team, it's like you're trying to maybe find someone who's like had a ton of success, but if they've had a ton of success in that industry or in content, they're sometimes doing their own thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little bit of a battle.
It's a tough one. Yeah. We had a gentleman, Andy's great now. We've had her in there for probably 7-8 months, and she's awesome. And she just loves working there. But the gentleman we had before was a younger guy. He was like 19 years old, started his own social media thing. But the problem is he lived in like California. And I'm like, I love you, dude, but like, you're not here. Like you're just sending me some sheets with some bullet points, but like sometimes I don't have context. I can't get a hold of you. Like, are you really working 40 hours a week? Like you need to move here. And that's okay. He didn't want to move here. That's fine. So we found somebody here, local in Scottsdale. I believe the content director has to be with you. Yeah. Like I don't like where we're at now in our social media growth on all channels compared to where we were even a year ago. The biggest difference is like our content director is actually here by me. So we get to plan things, we get to talk. Whereas the other content directors in California, we get on Zoom here and there. Like it's not the same experience. And, they're in the room sometimes when they're shooting the content like, you should do that over again. That didn't sound good. Because I always tell them like, hey, if it sounded off, you freaking tell me.
Right.
Because like, I want it to sound good. I want to make sure that we make our point. So like, I always tell them like, hey, if you're missing something there, like, let's redo this, So I think having them with you is so important.
Yeah. So them being here, is it just that they come up with better ideas, or they're around you more so they see more opportunities for it?
They figure out who you are as a person. Yeah. They figure out your style. Like when your content director like meets you once or twice a year, they don't really understand you. They just see you online, but a lot of times you're different in person. So I think when you're in person with the content director and the content team, like they just start to understand you. They write better. They just write better too, because they start to pick up on things. Whereas people that work virtually, I think that's a harder thing to do.
Interesting. Do you have an office here you use, but you're not your entire team is here, or is it?
No. Okay. We have 100. I think we're 112 employees or something like that. Between employees and 1099, like our salespeople are 1099, and we only have like 35-ish in the office right now, but we're trying to move more. And part of it is our offices aren't big enough, to fit that many people in there. We could maybe get like 10 to 12 more people in there. So I think we have one more year lease, and then we're actually moving offices closer here to Old Town area. So, yeah.
So in terms of, you got 5 kids, when I grew up, I would say like we had what we needed, but my dad was a teacher, mom stayed at home. So it was, it was pretty tight. And as I got older, I looked back and went, my dad worked way harder than most people. I didn't realize that at the time. I thought he was just normal, but he worked way harder. So some of my other friends had wealthy parents, and I kind of feel like they were in a worse position because when they had to go up against something, they would just kind of run to their parents. So because you're in a very, good financial position, let's say, how are you trying to maybe, like give your kids a better life, but balance that with like them learning their own?
Yeah, I'm more in the mid ground. I'm not a person that's like going to give you, oh, you want this? Yeah, sure. And I'm not a person that's like, you're not going to get anything when I die. Like there's like an extreme. I'm more in the middle. So like, for example, like, we went over to Europe this summer, right? And, my 4 oldest are 24, 22, 20, and 18. They should be able to pay for their own flights. So I pay for their own flights, but, you're sitting back and coach. They're like, well, Dad, why can't I sit up here by first class? Because, well, you didn't buy the ticket. I was like, you got to learn more skills if you want to buy your own first class ticket. Like that. So you got to sit back there and coach. I love you, but you got to sit back and coach. Or, I bought each of them a car in high school. But did I buy them a brand new car? No. Yeah. So like I got each of my kids a very safe car. I'm a really big person on like European cars. I just feel like they're safer the way they're built. That could be biased. So, I buy my daughter a BMW, but it's a 5-year-old BMW. It's not brand new. I buy my daughter a Volvo. Well, it's 4 or 5 years old. It's not brand new. So like I'm kind of like in the middle on that.
No, I like that. Patrick Bet David, I even heard him on a podcast, and he was saying he's going to leave his kids things, but they have to hit certain requirements. So like, I don't know, they'd be able to say, you have to be making at least 100K a year, you have to be this age, or you have to be married, or like, I kind of like that because it's like level unlocks. It's like, you get this when you show that you can handle it.
I agree. I think you gotta be right in the middle. Some people are like, I'm not leaving them anything. I'm like, that's a little bit too extreme. And then there's like, I give them everything. Well, sometimes they're just spoiled, and you don't want that. You want them to, I always say like when my son will like call me, I remember like a year ago and he's still in high school and he's like, Dad, I need some money. I was like, I don't think you need money. It sounds like you need more skills because the skills pays the bills. Like you need more skills so you have more money. Is that what you're saying? You got to learn more skills, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in hindsight, I looked at my dad and he didn't give us a lot, but that really mentally, it put me in a place where, hey, I have to figure this out.
Yeah.
Versus I saw some of my other friends, they'd kind of bail them out. And then it was like, well, I could figure it out, but that's harder. And my parents will bail me out. So I think you're doing it the right way.
Some is just competitive nature too. Like if you could be like, have extremely wealthy parents, but you might be driven in a different way if you're competitive to be like, you know what? I don't want people to think I've gotten the silver spoon. Like I'm just going to go off and do this on my own. That could drive you to do that. Whereas other kids like you and I, it sounds like I grew up in like lower middle class. Like I played college baseball. I played American Legion baseball in the summers in high school. Like we had like 70 games in the summer, but I still had to work on the weekends to pay for all that stuff because they didn't have the money to pay it. But that taught you work ethic, right? Like I grew up on a ranch, like a cattle ranch. Like I was digging post holes, 5, 6 in the morning before school. Like I hated it. But I didn't understand it at the time. But now I'm like, man, I'm glad I did that because it taught me work ethic. And like what I do now is like really simple compared to digging post holes all day.
Yeah. It's some of those things you're mad at as a kid. I mean, now that I'm an adult, I'm like, dude, totally makes sense. Totally understand. Thank you, Dad, for, being hard on me because I've seen just a lot of kids. It feels too easy. And I don't see a lot of benefit for them later on.
Man. So true.
Do you have any non-negotiable daily habits or rituals? So I don't know if you do, but you're really successful. So a lot of people like to know, what do you do? Like, do you have a fitness routine or a praying routine or meditation? Or like, is there anything you do?
I do go to the gym early. So I wake up at 5. I've got some friends that are the 4 a.m. club. That's a little bit hardcore for me. I'm the 5 a.m. club. Like I go 5 a.m. Not 4:59. Has to be 5 mentally because I have a 5:30 class. So I always go to there. It's like 5 minutes down the road. So that is a routine. It's too hard for me to go after work.
Right.
Because after work, things happen. Somebody calls you and now you're 30 minutes late or like you're just mentally exhausted. You're like, I don't want to go work out, So that's sober. So that's non-negotiable for me. Also something I started doing early in my life. I was 21, 22, and I learned this from Brian Tracy. That was my first sales seminar I ever went to. Brian Tracy says, you got to write out your to-do list every night so your brain thinks about it. I'm like, that's so smart. And so from like that day forward, 21-year-old kid, Sunday through Thursday night, because I'm working those next days, I write down a to-do list of even though it's on my calendar, for some reason, like I have to write it down as well, because then I fill in the gaps, like, oh, do this. And as I get it done, I check it off. Because I feel like I might not get everything done, but I feel like I got wins, if that makes sense. I even do sometimes on the weekends. I'm like, okay, Saturday morning, got to pick up my daughter at 9, got to take her here. So like when I go to bed, when I wake up in the morning, I already know what I'm doing. Whereas most people, they get into the office and they're like, oh, I need to write out to do this, what I'm going to do today. And you're already behind. Yeah. Like subconsciously, my brain thought about that the whole night. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm already 8 hours ahead of most people. To-do list, I think is.
Yeah. That's a big one. I think it's so simple, but it's so effective. I think a lot of people
and it
should
takes
do
like 2 minutes. It doesn't take that much long to write it down.
So you met a lot of people. For my determination, you can let me know if that's incorrect, but who's the most impressive influencer or business person you've met, and then what made them, so impressive?
Oh, there's so many brilliant people out there. I'm going to get some of my friends mad if I don't list their name. There's a guy out there, he's locally here, he's the CEO of A1 Garages named Tommy Mello. Do you know Tommy?
No, I don't. Oh.
He's got a pretty good sized social media presence, but he sold like half of his company. He has I think one of the largest garage door companies in the United States. But he sold half of it like 2 or 3 years ago for like $250, $280, $2 million. And he's just the most humblest guy. Like he's so like, what impresses me is like, you're at dinner. You know how people sometimes you're at dinner and the waitress or waiter will come up to you and the person you're with like treats them like crap.
Right.
That's always a red flag to me. Cause I'm like, if you treat them like that, like you're above them just cause you're wealthier, like something's going on there. But he's so humble, so nice to everybody. And he's not a person that sits there and brags about it. Like you wouldn't even know he did all that or made that much money. And that's what I find really attractive and cause you to trust people like that is when they don't like brag. Mm-hmm. It's just like, they're just there. And maybe you find out down the road, but that's not who they are. I mean, there's so many more people. I have so many more people that I've met.
Literally what made him probably his business success, but is it literally just how nice he is to people, or is it a mix of like, he sold his company for a punch?
Skill, he's in his mid 40s, so he'll tell you, he's like, dude, he's like, I started this business as like 25. He's like, for the first like 18 years, he's like, I was broke, like living in an apartment, like driving an old truck, and it's really been in the last like 7-8 years that it just got really, really big. So it's that perseverance and just, he learned what not to do and stuff like that, but he just stuck to it. And now, they're talking to Blackstone about rolling up the other half with other companies they bought for like way more than what they sold the other half.
You may not know because you didn't ask him, but I'm curious, what made him want to stick with that for 18 years and maybe this isn't the right business, let me start something else?
Just commitment, man. It's all come down to commitment. I like to hang out with people who are committed at whatever they do. I don't care. Like I'll hang out with people that might not even they don't even have a business, but they're just committed in church. They're committed to be the best parent ever. I just like people who are a committed athlete. Like I just like people who are freaking committed at their craft. You could be the most committed janitor and I'm going to respect you because you actually do your job with commitment and dedication to be the best at whatever it is. And I will respect you. You could work at McDonald's as a cashier, but you freaking do that job and you're committed, you're the best at it. I'm going to respect that person. What I can't respect is somebody who just does a half-ass job at anything.
What would you say to someone who says, well, like I'm committed, but it's not working. When do I know if I should change?
Well, I think here's, in my mind, the biggest reason why people fail at anything is they simply have a lack of knowledge of how to do the thing. Like I'm a big thing on applied knowledge. Like your biggest expense in life is your lack of knowledge and applying that knowledge to something. Like I've got some really smart friends that are broke. They have a lot of knowledge, but they don't apply that knowledge and make money with that. So in my mind, like if you're a salesperson, it's really damn hard to fail at sales if I learn how to sell really good, right? If I'm a business owner and let's say you hire an Alex Hormozy or somebody like you or whatever that teaches them the skills, it's really hard for you to fail at that point when you know what to do and you know not what to do. Now, when people don't have that skills and they're guessing and they're trying to like learn from their mistakes, that's when failure happens. So that's why I always say it's so important. Like if you want to get where you want to be, you hire somebody that's already mastered that thing themselves and let them teach you all the things that they learned from that. And it's really hard at that point to fail once you have that knowledge. It's really easy to fail when you don't have knowledge because now you're just guessing. And guessing does not win.
With your company's 7th level, do you have, you may not have projected this far ahead, but do you have a goal? Like, do you want to sell it? Are you just kind of like, oh, we'll see. I'm still running it right now. Do you have a goal with it?
Well, so we partnered with Paul Allen. He's the founder of Ancestry.com recently. So about 8 months ago on our AI launch. So we have there's a waiting list now. We launched in about 2 weeks. We briefly announced it. But it's a tool where they can ask me any question. So I have like 27 thousand hours of training content in that AI. It's a lot of knowledge. That's not just free content. That's like, industry specific trainings. That's like paid training from clients, like big corporations, every industry. We have thousands of industry specific scripts we've written for every industry that's in there. Like we have everything, right? So that is a big launch that we're doing because, eventually we do want to sell probably half of the business. I don't know if I'd ever sell the whole thing, but as you know, if it's just like a training business, the multiples on that is like maybe a 3x EBITDA, right? Whereas with AI mixed with that, you're talking about a 20x plus, So it's a little bit of a different ball game.
Yeah.
So that's about to launch. So it's an Ask Jeremy feature, ask me any questions, and it basically shows them what to do. Like, hey, how would Jeremy, I sell, fitness to this type of avatar. What would be Jeremy's first 3 connection questions he would ask for what I sell? And then it basically shows them. And then it says, for a more in detailed training, click here. And it goes to a training video where we're actually trained on that subject.
Super helpful.
So it's very helpful. It's like me in your pocket. That's the first aspect. The second part of that with companies, because a lot of companies have been asked for this, it'll actually review their sales calls.
That's great.
Virtual appointments, even if they're, let's say, selling HVAC in a house, or if they're selling to a company in their office, they just hit the app recorder and it goes into the CRM and it records their calls and it shows them what they did well. And it shows them like, hey, you actually lost a sale right here at the 3-minute and 37-second mark. It's that detailed because when you asked that question, you asked it really defensively. And did you see how they shut down emotionally? You should have asked it this way. And then I trained them, you should have asked it this way with this tone, with this question, and you would have opened them up. It's very detailed.
That's great.
The only competitor we have really is Gong. If you're familiar with Gong.
No, I'm not.
Gong's huge. They do like $5 billion a year. But Gong basically does the same thing, but it's very generic. Right. It's not a sales training company. It's more like a CRM type of platform, records all that stuff. And it's like, you need to get better at objection handling. You need to ask better questions, but it doesn't show you what questions and why and how you lost it. So I've even trained, and this will get better as time. So I'm going to be perfect when it starts. We're like 85% of the way there. But I even trained it how to not only read the tonality of the salesperson, but to read the tonality of the prospect. Wow. Because I always say you got to listen to what the prospect means, not just what they say. So they could be like, hey, do you feel like this could be the answer? Yeah, I think so. Most will be like, great, let me show you how to get started. Well, no, I'm not ready. I'd be like, you seem a bit hesitant when I ask that question. What's behind you? You can tell me. So I can sense they're hesitant. I know that they have a concern. So we've taught the AI to be able to read that in the call, to read the prospect's tone, to tell the salesperson what they're really thinking.
Yeah, I hope that goes well. That obviously the multiple goes way up.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Just to finalize, what's a question, and you may not be able to think of one, but is there something I should have asked you that I didn't that would be helpful for the listener?
That's a great question. Ask me what I feel the most important decision they can make in their life is.
Yeah, what is it?
Success is simply a choice. Literally. Success is simply a choice. And I don't know if a lot of people think that, but it really is a choice. You don't just decide to be successful and now you're magically successful. When you make that decision, you're going to be successful, that you're committed to mastery, you do the things that somebody who's committed to mastery does. But before you make that decision that I can choose this path, you'll never do the things that it takes to get there.
I don't know if this, pertains to psychology, but one of the mindset coaches I had, he broke it down really logically, and he just said, like, a lot of people, they're not sure what to do, but if you just think about, if you want to be the world's best husband or you want to be the world's best business owner, it's like, what would that person do? And then do that.
Exactly.
And it's like, sometimes we do overthink and we're like, oh, I'm not sure too. It's like, you know what to do. It's just like, you don't want to commit to maybe doing it. So
exactly.
I think that's really good advice.
I mean, look, like nothing great came easy. That's one thing everybody's really like, you want to be great? It's not going to be easy, but it will be worth it.
Yeah.
Having a life that's not so great is not easy either. Right. So pick which one you want. Like either if you decide that you want to have a great life, it's not going to be easy to get there. But if you decide that you're not going to do anything, well, it's not going to be easy to stay where you're at either. So I'd rather like have the life that I want. Like time flies by quickly. Like this life is short, time flies by quickly, and your biggest asset in life is your time, because once it's gone, you can never buy it back.
If people want to connect with you, know more about you, work with your company, where's the best places for them to go?
Have them follow me on Instagram. They've got my Instagram handle, probably Jeremy Lee Minor. Follow my verified account there. And then if they want to get on our waiting list for AI, we're about 2.5 weeks out before the launch.
Yeah, what I like about it too is if it works for you, it's super scalable. Like you don't have to do anything.
It's super scalable. We're going to put in our SLO. So like the Ask Jeremy features, we're going to do 2-week free trial and then $47 a month.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And then the one that does everything, like the car reviews, everything, it's an individual. It's like $99 a month. If it's a company, depending on how many salespeople have, there's discounts there. Yeah, so if they want to join the waiting list, I've got the phone number. They can either text AI to this number, 602-962-4271. So text AI to 602-962-4271. Or you can go to 7q.ai/wait list. How original, 7q.ai/wait list. And you'll get an email or text update when we actually launch our Ask Jeremy feature.
Awesome, man.
Lots of fun stuff.
Super excited for you, and congrats on all the success.
We'll see if it works out, man. Nothing's given.
But you've done super well so far. So it's kind of like, I think you're in that fun zone where it's like, hey, if it doesn't work, you're still good. But obviously you still want it to be.
There's no plan B. There's freaking plan A, man. It will work.
Heck yeah. Well,
it's one thing I love. I think, Tony Robbins is like, you burn the boats. Like you get to the island, like there's no plan B. It's like only plan way. I'm sure you're the same way. I'm just like, if I'm going to do something, like I don't have a plan B. Like it's only plan A.
I think that's the right mentality. Well, thanks for coming on, dude. And I can't wait to see where you go.
Appreciate it, man. It's an honor.